Summit was founded by my great-grandfather, Reverend L.W. Thomas, Lee Wilder Thomas. He was a native of Mahia, Texas, and came and founded the town of Summit in 1921. There was an oil boom in Mahia, Texas in 1920. And he was one of the fortunate landowners, him and his in-laws. They had property there. I don't even like to say that he moved to Oklahoma. He was run out of town. I mean, you think about, 1920, and there's this black man that has all this money. I mean, it's equivalent to being a millionaire nowadays, and he wanted to establish a community, providing a space where black people could be self-sufficient and feel safe in their environment and just be able to, provide for each other and be a well-rounded community.
Growing up in Summit was it was just like a big family that we haven't seen in a while. And, they grew up in Summit, their family was from Summit, and it's just that connection that you have, kind of like a brotherly, sisterly type thing. My mother actually was the first the first mayor, black, female, whatever, of Summit. She was responsible for getting the town incorporated. She was very focused on education, and that was just one of her goals, was to get the town of Summit incorporated, and she kept on until she did. She married my father, Joe Thomas, which was one of L.W. Thomas's younger sons.
One of the first things he did was establish a church. They established the St. Thomas Primitive Baptist Church. They built a structure in 1923. The members got together and with local materials and things, they built the church.
Since Summit was so small, there was St. Thomas Church, and then there was First Baptist. And because of the congregation or the community was small, they would share Sundays. So on first and third, people would come to St. Thomas. On the second and fourth, they would go to First Baptist.
There was a cotton gin, a grocery store, which was run by Reverend Thomas and his son. There was a filling station. A cousin of mine, she actually said on the back of the store, there was a little room that her and my grandmother used to make little hamburgers and sell little pop and stuff to people.
We just had a little general store on the corner, and that's where we went to get a soda pop or ice cream or, it's like a little convenience store. The school itself was on the main street, and it had a huge gymnasium inside, and it had swings and playground area and equipment. So that's where we would congregate with your friends to play at the school.
The school, W.E. Du Bois Elementary School and High School was there, and it operated from 1939 and to about the 80s, and then it was destroyed in a fire. But I mean, there was a lot of significant people who were educated at that school and throughout that high school.
All of the local kids went to school there, and there were actually children from Muskogee that came there. The principal, Ella Smith, lived in Muskogee, and everybody congregated at the school to play basketball. They would say, "Boy, those kids from Summit can really play basketball."
My grandfather was an urban planner before urban planning was a profession. He came with this vision that he wanted to provide an experience and provide a safe place for people to live, work, and play. That's like what us planners like to say now. That's the goal, is to restore it to its glory and educate others about the legacy of Reverend Thomas, because I know growing up, I knew about him. My family knew about him, but there's a lot of people who I've been sharing with in the recent years that had no idea about him or his impact on the community, and then a lot of other significant figures that came out of Summit. I don't think it came all the way to fruition, but in the time that he lived in Summit and the time that he worked and put his blood, sweat, and tears into it, I think he did a lot more than people expected, and he was just a really respected pillar in the community. It's an honor to follow in his footsteps and to carry on that legacy.